Very good afternoon to everyone, all the students, faculty members, and the experts. Uh, Initially, I would like to thank everyone again, all the students and all the faculty members globally for showing your keen interest in joining this particular web lecture initiative taken by various people at the back end, including Professor Parikshit Singh Manas. And I would like to tell you that we have received an overwhelming response for this particular international web lecture series promoting tourism and hospitality education globally. And this particular initiative, why we have taken this initiative is to include various hospitality and tourism students living around the world who are, locked down due to this particular COVID, and they want to learn new things through this particular online web lecture series. So I'm again thanking you very much for showing your keen interest in participating in this particular international web lecture series. And today is our lecture 6. We have already completed 5 of our lectures by inviting various experts from various universities dealing with tourism and hospitality. And today is our lecture 6. And uh, on the onset, I would request all the students, as we are facing this problem initially in our previous lectures, that there is a lot of hindrance or disturbance in between, unknowingly by the students, by unmuting the video or unmuting the sound. So I would request, please kindly mute your audios and videos whenever the lecture is going on, so that we can have a detailed discussion. And then eventually we will be giving you time for asking few questions in between, and that would be answered after the completion of this particular lecture. So I would request again to kindly be muted, and hopefully we'll start soon, as I can see in my inbox that students are still joining around the world, because I can understand that a few of you are facing some kind of internet issues at your respective places. So students are keep joining, and I would like to tell you about myself. I am Nikhil Singh Chadak, working as assistant professor in Ambedkar University, Delhi, and I'm also dealing with vocational education in tourism and hospitality. With me, I have Dr. Ramji, Dr. Jeet, and Dr. Balasubramaniam, those who are working at the back end for all those prior support to make this particular international web lecture series a great success. So, without wasting any time, I have Dr. Ramjit, who would be, introducing the experts today for this particular lecture. If I can call on Dr. Ramjit to kindly start the introductions of our experts.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon and warm welcome all of you in this sixth International Web Series lecture titled Role of Religious Tourism in Surviving the Indian Sector Post-COVID-19. On the behalf of the Birth and my co-host Dr. Jeet Dogra, from Assistant Professor ITTM Gwalior, and Nikhil Singh Chad from Ambedkar University, I welcome you. I extend my warm welcome you, and it's great pleasure and pride for me to welcome in this sixth web lecture series. And of course, it is a great pride and moment and privilege for me to introduce our esteemed speakers to you. We have Professor Parikshit Singh Manas and Dr. V.V. Nair from South Korea. It is, let me to brief about the Professor Manas, as one of my colleague has already given the brief introduction about it in previous lecture also. Professor Manas has done his postmasters in electronic commerce and information science from the Albert School of Business at Seattle University. And of course, presently, he's working as a professor in School of Business Studies and promoter director, University of Jammu Special Purpose Vehicle Foundation, and as working as a director, University Business Incubation and Innovation Centers. Many projects has been his credit, and he has published the various research papers in national and international journals. The other side, we have Dr. Bibi Nair from the South Korea. This is one of the renowned university. She has done his PhD in tourism and development from the Bedfordshire University in UK 99, and of course the MSc also from the same university. And presently she is working in the Woosung University in South Korea. Thank you, ma'am. I welcome you, and I welcome you both the experts for today. Now I invite to Professor Manhas to kindly initiate the session so that we, our audience, we may hear you, sir, once again. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to my fellow speaker and expert today, Dr. Bibitlal Balakrishna Iyer, and nice to have you around. Good afternoon to my colleagues who are coordinating with me and working on hosting this lecture, Dr. Jeet, Dr. Ramjeet, and Nikhil, who have been helping, and all the students and the participants for various universities who are present over here. So let me start with building up a prelude to what we have been talking about and what are going to be the discussions today. And I'll just start sharing my screen. So as always, the way the things have been moving and way we have been talking about, and we have been building up various thoughts and ideas. Today, we are going to again talk about one of very contemporary topics. All the participants over here would recall the fact that from the very first lecture, I've been talking about the fact that one very important aspect that is going to help us revive COVID also, and revive tourism and hospitality, during COVID and post-COVID also, is going to be the domestic tourism. And one very important aspect of domestic tourism that we were looking at was religious tourism. And fortunately, today we have an expert who she's going to talk about this particular aspect itself, that how religious tourism during COVID is going to help us, or post-COVID, and how it is going to help the tourism and hospitality to revive itself. Before I begin with the discussions and give my few cents on, or few thoughts on this particular topic, I would again like to tell everybody, kindly keep your mics at mute and kindly switch off your videos so that the whole bandwidth is used in beaming things out. And one very important aspect, that we all are live on our Facebook page also. So if somebody is by any chance is not able to enter into this particular room, they can always join our Facebook page. Okay. So coming up to religious tourism, well, focuses on visiting, it primarily focuses on visiting the important religious sites. And it's primarily, we are looking at meeting the religious needs, meeting at exploring the cultures of other nations, trying to see what sacred objects exist in other places. So some of the religious tourists also are looking for forgiveness, and especially in India, when most of them, they are trying to visit various religious sites. They are there, going there to seek blessings. They're trying, or some of them would like to go and worship their ancestors. One of the very traditional forms of tourism, I can say one of the oldest form of tourism, and this is the one which actually started the ancient tourism, you can say, where we had priests traveling from one place to another, moving and going to various religious, offering prayers to at various religious temples and sites, and going on and meeting deities and trying to do some sort of religious and religious worshipping. These days, what has happened is that religious tourism is also being, in a way, amalgamated with the culture also, and we have a new form which talks about religious cultural tourism, where religious culture as its carrier and has cultural connotations. So where we talk about the fact that religion also, in a way, people want to get to closer to the cultures of other places, try to understand what the cultures in those places are, and also perform various religious duties that they can or that they're thinking of. A small sort of I'll say a hindrance or small sort of a difference that crops up vis-a-vis religious tourism is, or two types of religious tourists that we can say are worshippers and visitors. Now, this is a tricky sort of a thing. Obviously, 80 to 90% people, especially in India or Indian subcontinent, when they are going to religious sites, they are going as worshippers. But yes, there are 10 to 15 to 20% people, a new crop of tourists who we can refer to as visitors also. Now, these visitors are just not visiting the religious site or a temple, but they are also trying to see or observe how or the way the worshippers worship at that particular religious site. So in a way, these visitors are onlookers who are trying to take a look at the fact that how worshippers are going to worship their deity and how they are going to offer their praise. Some of the worshippers, yes, do object to it, don't feel that comfortable when there are onlookers looking at them as an object that, okay, this is how they perform their prayers and all those different rituals that they have. So this is some sort of a, you can say, a conflict is there, but visitors would, whenever a visitor would like to visit a religious site, he would want worshippers over there. But whenever a worshipper visits a religious site, he may or may not like visitors over there. So that's a sort of a tricky aspect that we have. But the global statistics on economic relevances of religion tourism are very, very heartwarming, and they have been very appreciable. And as I've been discussing in my earlier lectures also, that tourism is the one which has been a key driver of revival of economies and earlier economic recessions also, and it has been helping them build up. And religious tourism has played a very, very important part in this thing. I'll give a brief benefits of what religious tourism can do and how it can work up. And before I hand over to my fellow expert today over here, well, obviously, one very important aspect is the economic development of host community. This is per se the religious tourism, be it worshippers or visitors, they are very important, and they try to build up this economic development of the host community. Infrastructural development can be brought up over there. It's a very labor-intensive service industry, so a lot of people are involved directly or indirectly vis-a-vis wherever religious tourism is being brought up, and that is what actually helps in the dissemination of revenue or dissemination of profits amongst various sections or various stratas of the society. So that's why it's very important. And what happens is the economic leakages that we talk about from the host community to other communities or other regions or to international communities is minimal vis-a-vis this is concerned. So this really or literally boosts the local economy and benefits the chosen city. And sometimes what happens is these worshippers and these visitors who have come for visiting this religious site or worshipping at this religious site may also like to come back again, visit other aspects of tourism within that particular region, be it adventure tourism or leisure, or during the same trip they can indulge in that particular factor. So that's a very important aspect. But now we come to the current scenario in India. What's the current position? Obviously, administrative directions are there. We all are aware of that fact that we are under a lockdown at this moment, and government has given, for our benefit itself, certain directions where mass gatherings are not allowed. Famous temples, famous religious sites, be it our Golden Temple in Amritsar or Mata Vaishno Devi in Jammu, where we are based at this, or Bada Imam Bada in Lucknow, all are closed at this moment. And there is a decline of numbers of religious tourists right from mid-March itself, like be it Puri or Ajmer or Kartarpur Sahib. So religious tourism will drop and is dropping day by day. So that's a cause of concern. That's literally a cause of concern. And till the time the other modes of travel are not open, we don't look at the fact that religious tourism is going to bring up. But before lockdown and before all these things came up, this is something which Government of India had initiated, and this is a very, very important thing. National Mission on Pilgrimage, Rejuvenation and Spiritual Augmentation Drive. We call it as PRASAD. So that's a very, very ambitious Government of India scheme, and they had initially identified 12 sites or 12 cities which were going to be developed under this PRASAD, and they are the money is still being allocated under it. The funds are going to be utilized. Some of them have been utilized. So this is a heartening thing. This is a very, very important thing that Government of India has laid specific stress on pilgrimage rejuvenation, and they are trying to build up cities which are actually going to help us increase the spiritual or religious tourism. Well, the key factors that can drive religious tourism at this moment or post COVID-19 are some of the very important aspects that I've been looking at. One, obviously, prime is our safety. Safety is going to be a very, very important concern. Whichever religious site you have, wherever it is, be it Mata Vaishno Devi or Golden Temple or Bada Imambada in Lucknow, whichever place we have, their safety is going to be very, very important, and how that safety is going to be handled, taken care of, that is going to be very, very important. Health issues are going to be there. People are going to be screened before they visit all these sites, before they go to all these sites. That's going to be a very important aspect. So as we have been talking in our earlier lectures also, a lot of people, a lot of techniques are going to be used so that people can be screened in or screened out from visiting these particular these sites, these spiritual sites. Hygiene is going to be very important. Brands I'm referring over here is the bigger temples or bigger sites or bigger religions like a Golden Temple or Mata Vaishno Devi or Tirupati. So these are the ones who have to be the trendsetters. They have to set the trends. They have to implement or build up new normals or new protocols that we refer to. And these protocols need to be followed. What my hunch is at this moment is that people will not like to fly down to these destinations or go by train, because a lot of you'll meet a lot of strangers over there. But usually people would be driving to all these particular places. So smaller group of people, maybe in cars or buses, would be the one which would be traveling. And once you make that much of an effort to travel to these particular places, what is the value addition that is going to be there? Obviously, value amongst the worshippers is obviously what we are looking at is the blessings that they are looking at. But there's some section of worshippers who are just visitors. So these visitors would also be looking at value. I keep repeating this over and over again in all my lecture. Flexibility will be the key. Flexibility and adaptability. These two things are going to be very, very important if we see the revival of religious tourism. Obviously, flexibility, the way the management of these institutions, religious sites, tries to be flexible, tries to adapt to the changing scenario, looks at these 5 criteria and how they keep improvising on daily, I'll say on daily basis, or at least every 3 days they keep improvising, and for the betterment of their visitors or their worshippers or their tourists, whatever you call them. But they have to be very, very flexible and very, very adaptable. So this is something which I have to talk about, and which I wanted to start a prelude to before Dr. Bipta Lal Balakrishnan Nair talks about gives her thoughts as an expert on this particular thing. But these were a couple of my ideas and my thoughts. And stay home today for your better travel tomorrow. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I'll hand it over to Ramjit now. Ramjit. Are you around, Ramjit? I think he's not able to listen to us. So I'll, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot for sharing with such a wonderful thoughts, and of course the very key factors you have shared with us. And of course, you have pointed out the flexibility and other adaptability factor that everybody must consider about it while attracting the more pilgrimage tourists and taking care of them. I now invite our other expert, Dr. Vivi Nair from Wusong University. Ma'am, please, it's a handover over to you, ma'am, to share your thoughts. Thank you very much.
I've made you as a co-host, so you can share your screen also now.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you, Professor Manhans and Dr. Jeet, for this wonderful opportunity. Let us start with our shared screen. So, as you all know, today we are going to discuss about the role of religious tourism in reviving the Indian tourist sector post-COVID-19. So religious tourism is one of the important factors for India. If you are seeking the answer, this is the answer for your question. Because India is the land of gods and goddesses. You cannot move around in any part of India without touching, without experiencing the color of, the smell of religiousness. It's in India's culture. So this is a high time we have to use this particular aspect as a post-revival, post-pandemic strategy, because a revival, resilient strategy for reviving Indian tourism sector. So why religious tourism? There are many reasons for religious tourism to become a potential strategic tool for using post-COVID strategy. First one is the mass of attractions. You cannot find any other tourism aspects in India like religious tourism. With your permission, I would like to erase the fragile link, the fragile theoretical borders between spirituality and religiousness. I am considering at this time for the revival of Indian tourism as religious tourism as a one umbrella that can do something better for the reformation or transformation of the entire tourism industry. The next is the reach. The reach of Indian spirituality and religious tourism is worldwide. This is a particular image of India globally. India is a land of spirituality. India is a land of religions. India is a land of gods. So this is a high time to exploit these kind of images about India. And especially the next one is the mix. Religious tourism is not a single way of tourism. If you are thinking about religious site, religious attraction, religious space, you can see it is a correlation. It's an amalgamation of other type of tourism. If you are going to a religious space or thinking about a religious space, that may be in a hill station, or that may be in a metropolitan city, that may be a heritage site, that may be a cultural site, that may be in a beach environment. So if we are thinking a revival strategy through religious tourism, obviously these strategies, these tools can help other forms of tourism in terms of local community participation, in terms of revival and rejuvenation of the entire umbrella of Indian tourism. The next one, obviously the last one, is the culture. The culture means India as a land of religion and as a birthplace of 4 main religions in the world and as a cradle of civilization. You can think about the diaspora in India. And it's a culture of that diaspora is to visit. It's their faith to visit the main core religious site at least once. So this is the area, even in the time of this pandemic, these are the areas where we need to work to develop religious tourism as the revival, the core revival aspect of Indian tourism industry. So now we can move to the post-COVID planning. Honestly, I am also not sure about the post-COVID era because the global scientific community is after this innovations of vaccines. And if you are seeing there's a second wave is happening in Japan, in Singapore, maybe India is waiting for a big wave at the time of monsoons. So there's no post-COVID era to be extended for 2021. However, there is no time to rest. Things will happen. This is part of the game. Every time in the history, there's something will happening. So we have to do something to use these advantages of religious tourism to rejuvenate, to revive the entire tourism industry within its own limit. So I identified, in my opinion, there are 4 main regions, main specific focus areas we can do this. Post-COVID-19 tourism, back to future thoughts. We have to think back to future thoughts. So first one, I think, aim for the local market and promote staycations. Second is promote safety to tourists. More than the safety, we have to market We have to develop a marketing criteria to promote, to prove India as a safe place for the tourist. And the third one is relaunch religious tourism products. And the fourth one is launch packages that have been developed already or that have been developing now. So we are going to see each one of these elements in detail. So we can start with first one, aim for the local market post-COVID-19. This is the real importance of religious tourism in India. This is a significance because, as you know, the academics, the practitioners, everybody is busy in doing some kind of research. They're collecting data, they're analyzing worldwide, they're busy. So there is new kinds of researches are coming up every day. According to the recent research published in Tourism Management by Smith in 2020, there is a very interesting factors about tourist behavior. They had a questionnaire around more than 2 million tourists all over the country, all over the continent, intercontinental questionnaire they did. They come up with a very, very interesting result. If you are seeing the graph, you can see there are four options, 4 opinions they collected. First one is around 5% people, they are saying that, oh, they are afraid to travel. Another 5%, they said, no, it doesn't matter. I will go for holidays abroad. And that may be the millennials, why the youngsters, they are not matter everywhere in the world. They are not want to be in a lockdown. They want to explore the world without the pandemic situation. And some of the elements, less than 5, they are still in trouble. They are not decided. However, if you are seeing the big graph there, you can find where is the potential for religious tourism in India. Because more than 70% of tourists saying that, yes, I will go in domestic places. If you are connecting that result to the Ministry of Indian Statistics, according to them, close to 60% of domestic tourism in India is religious based. That is mean directly or indirectly connected to the religious tourism factors. Okay, so we need to connect both these factors. Then we can find the real potential behind religious tourism. So the everywhere after pandemic, even after recession or after any other kind of global crisis, there is a hike, there is a huge demand for domestic tourism. Expected to be happen for after post-COVID as well. So this is the area India needs to be exploited for the religious tourism because their domestic tourism is going to be high after COVID. And for India, that's one of the main points. We need to make sure that 60% of tourists are directly or indirectly for religious-based attractions. So we have to market based on some post-disaster marketing strategies to make sure we are exploiting these stances. Market the splendid religious attractions. So another important step for local marketing is traveling locally. Promote staycations. This is a trend now. As you know, some of the main Western countries, they are major tourism destinations. They opened some of the attractions like Italy, Spain, etc., France, etc. They are open their attractions for tourism. So at this time, we can think about it. India can also do that, maybe after monsoon. But also we can consider the uncertainty around the world now. So traveling locally promotes staycation. Staycation means just opposite to vacation. It is traveling to the shorter distance, like domestic tourism. They are traveling nearby places. This is a time for staycation. It will gear towards the domestic market, and less frequently visited religious destinations may benefit from the demand for less crowded places. India has plenty of it. India has plenty of it, less visited destinations and without any crowd. So this is the time to take this destination, this religious place, to put up, do the marketing strategies for put up these attractions. This will definitely influence the local community, local economy, local infrastructure as well. So we can take this as a strategy. Just to remind, today we are discussing religious tourism, one of the strategic tools for the revival of Indian tourism. So this is one of the first point is about local marketing and enhance the staycations, local travel, domestic tourism. Because of the potential of domestic tourism in India, predicted to be, and 60% of domestic tourists are focusing on religious tourism attractions directly or indirectly. Now, promote safety to tourists. Whatever the form of tourism, wherever they are going, I think after COVID or during the COVID, safety is the main thing, as Professor Manhans told. Safety, hygiene, security is the main thing that's going to affect. Distancing, that may be social or physical distancing, is essential to get a survival and to promote a destination tourism strategy, to promote them in the international tourism market, to make sure they are safe to travel. Recent studies showing that people are attracted in future for the safest place in the world, considering COVID. So distancing is very important. Promoting safety, whatever we are doing, whatever strategies we are taking for reviving the religious tourism sector, it should be based on safety of tourists. Travel privacy will be much more important from now on. The fear of proximity between people and crowding needs to be avoided in religious sites. It should be a real challenge for the religious tourism sector in India, because the main attractions, one of the main attractions for religious tourism is the festivals, events, special rituals, that the area where we need to work. I cannot imagine a festival without crowd. How we can do a Holi, how we can do a Ganga Puja, how we can do Niskars in masjids, how we can do a Christmas prayer in churches. But there is a solution for everything. This is the area where stakeholders, government needs to work because of the COVID restrictions. Either they can go for some kind of distancing, some kind of hygiene rules. It should be predicted that it will design the future tourism industry, how a destination promoting itself as a safe place for tourism. So for religious tourism, I would say this will be the hardest part, because in terms of attraction, in terms of its particular characteristics and special features of religious tourism in India. And third one is to relaunch religious tourism product. Go for some micro holidays, because this should be the trend. Either, indeed, this should be the real point for religious products, connecting domestic tourism. Small scale break designed for local religious light. This is why I mentioned about enhanced local market, less crowded place, less identified place. For micro holidays, develop some thematic work, theme circuits like that, micro holidays, theme circuit for religious tourism to their locality, even in a district wise, according to travel restrictions, because we don't know how the travel restrictions is going on. We don't know future. We cannot predict some kind of things like this. These are unprecedented incidents happening. So let's hope for the best and think from the local areas. So do something for relaunch the religious tourism products. And also this is a time for doing some kind of virtual programs, like any other forms of tourism. We can go for some kind of virtual prayers or virtual offerings. That can be also tried, because if this market is down and religious destinations, almost everything is famous ones is closed, like famous temples, Tirupati, and everything is closed. So people are not thinking about it. But it is essential to make reminding them. So to become out of this market, it should be some kind of effective strategy can be used, using micro holidays, or using some kind of virtual technological offerings or virtual tools for religious tourism, especially in India. So use micro holidays as the most powerful strategy for travel for religious tourism in India in terms of lockdown or travel restrictions. They can travel inside the district. So this is need to be start from the very grassroots level. So this will help the local community as well. So this need to be developed and relaunch tourism product. Other than in the national-wide theme-based circuit, we need to go for the district-wise or micro-holiday launched some kind of religious attraction. This is an area for improvement. Next, the last one, launch packages that have been developed. There are 3 core areas for focus of religious tourism for India. There are, as Professor Manhan told, there's a Prasad scheme there, and there is a Swadesh Darshan program there, and collaboration there. These areas need to be transformed. They need to be recreated, or they need to be reformed according to the present context. To be acknowledged today, now at the time of crisis, religious tourism is ground zero. There is nothing happening other than the daily pujas and other rituals there. However, let's hope for the best. To use tourism as a revival strategy, as a resilient management factor, we have to think about these main project, 3 focus areas I would suggest for Indian ministry to revive religious tourism in India. We can start with Swadesh Darshan scheme, a strategy to recreate, reform, and transform religious tourism in India. For your awareness, Swadesh Darshan scheme, which would involve construction of infrastructure around touristy places under the ambient of 15 themes, like Buddha circuit, Krishna circuit, spiritual circuit, and Ramayana. So this is interstate. So at this time, they can reform a little bit. Considering the spread, the status of corona in each state, they can reform a little bit. They can do some kind of intrastate, inside the state, they can do some kind of themes focusing on Swadesh Darshan, creating the staycations, creating micro holidays, and promoting the destination safe, because some of our states are 100% COVID free. So we can use those states, those having with free lockdown, they are freely now in lockdown restrictions. Like some and kind of northeast state, they can do that. Some like Goa, they are COVID free. They can use of this scheme, develop something, recreate something for a temporary arrangement for religious tourism, to announce some kind of Swadesh Darshan scheme, but in a limited locality, to identify the less frequent, less visited, and they can do all these, they can follow all these regulations and restrictions based on the corona by the government. So we can identify some states, they are having less COVID effect. We can revive, we can start reviving religious tourism based on this scheme. Then we can promote and market those destinations, those places, at least until post-COVID. Because at the time, it is predicted it will take 1 more year to revive post-COVID. So Swadesh Darshan scheme can be used as a strategy. And next is Prasad scheme. As Professor Manhan told, a strategy to recreate, reform, and transform. Prasad means pilgrimage, rejuvenation, and spiritual augmentation drive scheme that is centered on building, beautifying recognized pilgrimage place. Especially if the augmentation drive there, they can also go for some kind of virtual type of offerings to make the market alive. So I would suggest to reform or recreate and transform some forms of this Prasad scheme to support post-COVID. Because flexibility and adaptability is the key of post-COVID recovery. We have to adapt the current situation, the current scenarios happening in India. And we need to be flexible to accept these changes. So that is applicable to these schemes as well. Compared to the current context, they can work on it. They can work on in the most viable solution for Prasad scheme, and they can do some kind of augment drive for that particular destination if within the limit of COVID-19, like government restrictions, traveling, like that. So I am telling about at the time, and post-COVID, we can start as usual. Then this third one, perhaps the most important one, strategy at the time of post-COVID should be the collaboration. This is the time for the survival of the fittest. Everybody is striving, every destination is striving for that. They are going for the challenges. Everybody is searching for it. So for religious tourism, because of the similarity and the combination factors, the amalgamation and correlation, I would suggest there is some plan for collaboration. Collaborate with some important aspects of Indian tourism like yoga and Ayurveda and innovative schemes. Combine all these factors, they are sharing similar aspects. They are founded on the same philosophy. For yoga and Ayurveda, there is a speciality. There is no need to be physical visit, but still they can refresh the market using some kind of new schemes like virtual realities, or we can give some kind of virtual treatment offerings like Ayurveda doctors. And for the yoga, there are some kind of marketing is going on. Also, they can use some kind of online yoga practices. This is not to make any money, but to make the market refresh, market alive, because currently tourism is at ground zero. Nothing is going on. But this is very dangerous situation. For every crisis, there is an end. So we need to be prepared. We need to be collaborated, because the post-COVID period is not going to be same as before. We are going to be a different lifestyle. Believe me, our lifestyle, our style of tourism, our style of travel, everything going to be heavily impacted by this COVID-19. So this is essential for every tourism destination, especially for this kind of tourism, like religious or spiritual tourism, to make their presence, refresh it, revive it, make their presence. So they have the potential. Like if they are collaborating spirituality, religiousness with yoga and Ayurveda, and they can still offer their service, and they don't need to be, there is not a big gap between at the time of crisis and post-crisis. So the gap will be solved very easily if there is a strategy. So I would suggest this is last strategic tool for how we can use religious tourism to get Indian tourism survived from COVID as a post-COVID strategy. So we are winding up. No storm lasts forever. Be ready for a post-COVID era. Let's hope for the best. So it's our responsibility to make all our weapons ready, to make the country, to make the religious tourism sector of India is refreshing, revived, and make their presence from this ground zero. It is a high time to do something for it. We can use any of these strategies, start doing something, make our presence, because religious tourism and spiritual tourism is the heart of Indian tourism. So this is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. And I'm asking Professor Manhans or Professor Jeet can hand over this.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bipitala.
Thank you.
Ramji, you can carry on.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you, sir, you too also. I'll share we have a certain questions from the participants, and I'm going to share with you for the discussions. Yes.
Okay, so Ramji, the first question is about the social distancing be possible in Indian society, where the religious are more be intact with social interactions and practices. So, Dr. Nair, I think the participant wants to talk about that since we are a very closely knitted society and where interactions are a key to our worshipping sites. So would social distancing be possible in the Indian society? First of all, I'll again talk about the fact that we don't want social distancing. We want physical distancing.
Physical
So these
distancing.
are two very important and different aspects. So social distancing is not what we are looking at. We want, I'll again repeat, and all of you also, that don't be socially away from other people. Try to, in this need of difficult times, we need to be close to each other and need to help each other. So we don't need any social distancing, physical distancing. Yes, Dr. Nair, your take on this, that since we are a very closely knitted and interactions and practices are part of it.
Thank you, Professor Manhans. That's why I mentioned for this question. Thank you for this. This is very important question at this context. This is a real challenge for Indian religious tourism, especially for a community like India. We are very much interacting socially, and our ritual practices in disregard to any kind of religion is the distancing. So either we can do something like a carrying capacity limit for or virtual offering. We need to use the technology. Unfortunately, I would say, even if I am saying with the religiousness, I would say the word unfortunately. The first thing we can do that with some kind of carrying capacity. That means we need to limit the number of entry with some kind of timings, maybe 10 persons within 30 minutes. Then after that, sanitization and hygiene activities. Then we need to it's another 10% with a 2 feet distance. The next thing we need to do for offer some kind of virtual offerings. They can visit the place, but we can limit their entrance divided by the zones. And we can offer some kind of virtual offerings that can be visible too. I am saying about our key areas, key attractions in religious. I am not saying about the local ones, but obviously this is one of the main problem, and this is a main challenge for Indian religious tourism that I already mentioned in this PowerPoint slide. Thank you.
Very well, Dr. Nair. And I'll add something over here. I think in one of my last slides, I talked about the key factors that can drive religious tourism. And I talked about the brands aspect and the safety, health, and hygiene. So the point is that all these bigger brands, we can call it, or we can, since we are in the business field, so we try to refer them from the business connotation, but all the bigger sites or religious places like our Golden Temple, Mata Vaishno Devi, Tirupati, Bada in Lucknow, they can be the leaders in all this thing. And they could come up, since they have the resources, they have the money, they have the resources, so they can utilize this to build up a protocol, build up a methodology based on which they also allow the participants or visitors to visit these places, or tourists to worship, but then they also follow some sanitization and health and hygiene aspects. So where they're at regular interval, cleanliness is taken care of, at regular interval, people are screened, and all those who are not fit to travel or fit to go inside, they are politely asked to leave or something of that sort. So they have to be trendsetters, and I think they have very good boards and managements also. The Golden Temple board is one of the best one, Tirupati, Mata Vaishno Devi. So they have very good boards, and they could also always brainstorm and work out and come out with ideas. Obviously, physical distancing is going to be the key vis-a-vis this is concerned. So we have another question. As everyone knows that Indian tourism, especially religious tourism, was at its peak. So is there any chance in near future religious tourism will surpass the old trends? If yes, according to you, how much time approx will take to surpass that point in the future? Doctor, I'll start maybe. Religious tourism, there's always a chance for it to grow, because we all are, especially in Indian subcontinent, everybody is very religion conscious and is very, I can say, follower of God. So one deity or another. So the aspect is that, yes, we were earning a lot of it. A lot of tourism was dependent upon it, and a lot of people were visiting religious sites. How much time? Obviously, at this moment, a conservative projections that are being made by different analysts around the globe is 2 years. for the tourism and the economy to come back. It's a conservative sort of a thing, but it all depends upon how soon we find vaccination. Your take on this? Yeah, Dr. Nair, your take on this?
Yeah, I'll just continue with Professor Manhans. I absolutely agree with you, Professor Manhans, because there is a time of uncertainty is going on, but we cannot predict how long it will take. But this is a time to come up with some innovative, creative ideas. And it will take time, of course. And we cannot predict how much effort it will needed. According to the regulations and COVID spread, because this is a time, India is, I would say, current scenario of COVID in India, we have to wait until August because of the monsoon, it is predicted to be high. So there is some kind of scenarios need to be come up. Either launch to be some kind of virtual types using technology at the time of crisis, and we are not at the post-COVID stage now. After that only it will be decided and what kind of resources we can be used. The old trends is the physical visit to a destination. And unfortunately, I cannot tell, I'm from the perspectives of current researchers, this is not going to be back to be normal life. It will take time, at least for 1 year, as per the research saying. So I think it will take time, and it will depend on how we are allaying the resources, how we are marketing, and what about our safety strategies. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Nair, as I said last time also, there's a famous saying, maybe it is true for these days only, that we appreciate your hurry, but even hurry takes time. So I know tourism and hospitality industry and the religious tourism, everybody wants to come back on track and start doing good things. But obviously, as Dr. Nair also pointed out, that we are during COVID scenario, we are not even post-COVID. And 1 to 2 years horizon, yes, everybody has to take a look at it and start thinking of how we can work on it. We'll quickly take another question before we go to the wrap up of the session. And whatever questions are left as for the last lectures, what we did was we'll post their replies on our Facebook page. So you can visit our Facebook page and see the replies of those questions. So we'll take this third question, Dr. Nair. What innovative startups can be developed in terms of religious products in India? Kindly share your views. Thank you for a wonderful session. So, Dr. Nair, what innovative startups?
Thank you very much, Nilesh, for this wonderful question. As I mentioned in the PowerPoint slide, I think at this time, we need to start something, get ready for the post-COVID. Even the post-COVID is an imaginary concept for India or entire globe. I would say this should be based on the trends. That is based on this staycation trend. That means travel globally. Though the startup, I would suggest, is one of the best and context-specific strategy is for developing some kind of local religious product development, considering the travel restrictions, especially for current green zones, COVID-free zones. Same like Swadesh Darshan. This is the thing it need to be happen from the grassroots level with the help of local community. There is some kind of marketing, identification of some key places, religious places that have worth visit. India has plenty, believe me, still under a curtain. It's hiding, and we can identify that kind of places and do some kind of marketing to take them upfront market and ask the domestic tourists to visit a place. We can start some startup like that, post-COVID, that including the disaster and post-disaster marketing and using social media. And the second one, we can do something with technology. Like everywhere, the virtual reality is going on, but the research is showing that for the preference for the virtual reality is only going for 10 days. After that, it will going down. So there is some specific criteria we can develop for in terms of marketing, some kind of virtual offering, some kind of carrying capacity zones, especially for our frontliners, our top religious attractions, something like Tirupati or Golden Temple. They can begin these kind of activities. They can offer some virtual kind of darshan by allowing some kind of people. We can do some startups. And the third one is the marketing, the micro holiday destinations. We can identify the green zones, and we can identify which are the places we can go nearby within half an hour or 1 hour and promote that destination, something like a themed route. So this kind of startup definitely will help at this time. And post-COVID, we can continue and elaborate this startup. We can go for extending the contact zones, extending the number of visitors, or extending district from a local place to a district, then go to industry district, then to state, according to the current strategy of current context of COVID. How long it will take, we don't know. So at the time of crisis for India, this should be one of the best strategies. And also the collaboration with yoga and Ayurveda will be one of the best startup. And this have huge potential, because especially for the yoga, we can go for some technological, online, virtual kind of marketing and offering, using some, not only in domestic way, but in a global international market Indian yoga to make it presence. And maybe after post-COVID, that will help as well. I think these are the 4 areas we can concentrate for post-COVID startup. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nair. And I just coined a term while I was listening to you and looking at this innovative startups. Can we start, or can we think of something like luxury worshippers? People who can afford a helicopter ride right from here to Tirupati, or right from Jammu to Amritsar for Golden Temple. And obviously we have helicopter rides from here to Katra to Mata Vaishno Devi. So they get a chartered helicopter and they go there, they perform and all that. Yes, I know this is something different. Something may not be that welcomed also, but at least some segment of tourism and hospitality stakeholders will be able to make certain earnings out of it. And that's what our important problem at this moment is, the liquidity crunch within our hospitality and tourism industry. So there are literally no profits at all, and huge amount of losses being incurred. So why not make certain improvisations where at least people who have money and who have the desire and who can afford, and they can given all comforts, and maybe classify them as luxury worshippers and take them along, and maybe because of them some sort of money could be reduced into the industry. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Nair. Thanks a lot for your questions. We'll answer the rest of the questions on our website. Dr. Jeet, maybe you can sum up now.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to everyone for giving me an opportunity, and thanks, Dr. Vipika, for accepting our invitation and being there for that wonderful presentation. Just a second, I'll share my screen. Thank you. So today, the lecture 6, the topic is role of religious tourism in reviving the Indian tourism sector post COVID-19. And in that, Professor Parikshit Singh Manas and Dr. Vipika Lal, so they had shared a lot of few things over there, and which I have summed up over that. First of all, let's talk about the 4 shootouts. So that shootout that really help us, especially to the young people sitting over there. So definitely they are having the lot of doubts in their minds about what will happen with the religious tourism. For that, let's share me one statistic that's given by Dr. Vipika Lal. 60% of domestic tourism in India is religious tourism. So it means that this particular section is having a lot of great percentage when you're talking about the business perspective there in India, and then the religious tourist. So sir has divided that and enlighten us that religious tourism is consisting of 2 main sectors. One is worshippers and another visitors. So they are having their different priorities. They are different, you can say, then they have to visit over there, what privacy issues and all that. So this is what he talked about that. Next point is that benefits are there, but the important point in religious tourism that sir has highlighted, that minimum economic leakage. That is most important when we're talking about the destination development. And the next point is revisit to experience the other aspect of a destination. So religious tourism is having that kind of potential over there. This is what happening when we're talking about Shri Mata Vaishno Devi and the nearby sector, we're talking about Shiv Khori and the other religious sector that's already developing, especially in the Jammu division, and there are other sectors in the country. Likewise, next point is that in present situation is not, you can say, good when we're talking about the religious tourism in India because of the closure of the main religious sites. Next, there are few more things that religious tourism that sir has highlighted. First is the safety. We should have to consider this thing: health, hygiene, brands, and what kind of value can drive this particular sector of religious tourism during and post COVID-19. After there, after this, then Dr. Vipita has given us a lot of new points, wonderful presentation over there. But then I picked up the Super 6 over that. And what is that Super 6? First point is that let's understand India as a country, which is land of gods and goddesses. And the widespread reach over there, multicultural society. She talked about the festivals, the presence of a lot of people over there. So that is kind of a colorful, like we can say, during the festivals and during the religious sites, we are experiencing the life. So that's the important point. Some of the strategy for revival that she had highlighted over there: aim for local market, promote staycation. Staycation is obviously the word over there which is popular. Travel to nearby places. This is what there is a need to do. Safety. Then next point is relaunching of that religious tourist products post COVID-19. Provide travel privacy at religious sites. That is important. And then the promotion of micro holidays. I think the some of the points she already talked about during the question answer session. I already given you the statistic that 60% of domestic tourism in India is religious. Next point is that the Union Indian government and the Ministry of Tourism has already taken a lot of steps over there. Prasad and Swadesh Darshan schemes, that these are the two prominent schemes that really help when we're talking about the revival of religious tourism after the COVID. So next point, that is again a valid point in that there are, I think yesterday I was reading newspaper and there's written there 261 districts is comes under the green zone. It means that COVID-free states or COVID-free zones. So that is what that we should have to look forward when you're talking about the development of themes and circuits under religious tourism. And then she had wind up with that collaboration with the key. You're talking about yoga, Ayurveda. These are USPs. We're talking about religious tourism in India, or the other some of the elements that associated with Indian culture or society. And then we're talking about some of the innovative schemes that will boost Indian religious tourism. With that, I'll wind up with my the presentation, and I'm so thankful to Professor Manas and Professor Kandappan from Taylor's University, and so nice that Dr. Bipi has accepted our invitation. I'm so thankful for my fellow colleagues, Dr. Ramjit and Nikhil, for their support, and all the students, national and the international students, they are present there, and their support and all. Please keep attending our lectures and keep supporting us, and also like our social media pages. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jeet. I'll request everybody to switch on their cameras now for our digital selfie. So this is the best part. Like Dr. Nair, we are going to have a digital selfie where everybody is asked to switch on their cameras so we can see them, and we have a picture taken. Our next lecture is on 13th, the Wednesday. Dr. Puva is going to be there from Kandappan, Taylor's University, and Kandappan is going to be there. So I would request all of you to join us again on Wednesday, the 13th, and you all will be happy that we have all our slots booked till at least 6th of June. We have lots and lots of famous people. Dr. Perry Hobson is also going to join us one of these days. Dr. Scott Richardson from Emirates, Sanjay Nadkarni from Emirates, Tamara Rats is going to join us. He was attending the lecture today. A lot of good people are going to join us from around the world. Kindly switch on your camera so that I can take a digital selfie. So I think a couple of you still haven't switched them on. Priyanka Malhotra, Dania Shah, Atisha Barua. You're on the front screen. Okay. Okay, hold on. I'll go to the next page. And I'll also tell you that we keep posting. Yeah, there's Dr. Tamara also. So, yeah. So, hi. So, we all will have your questions and answers posted on the next, on our Facebook page. Everyone, please switch on your cameras. Mir Mudassir, Nilesh Wagmare, Daryl Ace. Okay. This is a big selfie that we have. We go to our another page. So there are a lot of participants here. And you all will be happy to note that today we have our Facebook Live also going on. And we had a full-fledged Facebook Live for all the session, complete session. That's a nice thing. Okay. Okay, that's good. So thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks being part of this particular program. Keep supporting us, and we would like to help you out. And if any one of you has any suggestions for any specific topics or any specific speaker around the globe you want to listen to, I'll make it an effort to get that speaker over here. So please give your suggestions and we'll keep having them. Thank you, Ramjeet. Thank you, Jeet. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Kandappan. Thanks a lot for supporting us. Thank you, Dr. Nair. Thanks a lot for being part of us. Thank you
very much.
And we look forward to have more interactions with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.